Okay, today's lesson we're going to talk about California in the Southwest. And this was owned by Spain initially, and then it gets turned over to Mexico. But America is longing to get into this territory as well. So in the early 1840s, Mexico ruled most of these states, California, Arizona, Nevada, all of Utah, New Mexico, and most of Colorado. Before this time, Spain had owned this territory. It was like in the 1590s. Spain claimed this area as part of the Spanish Empire. In the early 1600s, Spain establishes a capital. I would say this. Oh, by the way, this is all called New Mexico. All right, New Mexico. This area where these present-day states are. They established a capital in Santa Fe, which is in present-day New Mexico. And at first, the Spanish are not going to allow Americans into this area. Not at all. Not going to happen. It's going to be after Mexico wins its independence from Spain that they're going to start allowing Americans into this territory, which is good for America, probably not so good in the long run for Mexico. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about California. California had been first explored in 1542 by the Spanish, and they know about this place. But it's going to be in the late 1700s, I don't remember, 1760s, I think, 1760s, 1770s, that soldiers are going to start to come. Captains are going to sail up the coast, and with these soldiers, they bring missionaries. Missionaries, okay? Let's underline that. Okay. So the missionaries are going to be the first people to establish permanent European settlements in California. Okay, the first guy's name was Father Sierra. He sets up the first mission in San Diego, and then they set up a string of 21 missions along the coast of California. Now, each one of these missions becomes self-sufficient. They're able to have the church, which is the mission, and the land surrounding it. They're able to produce enough food, grow enough farm animals to feed themselves. And what happens is then soldiers come and they build up forts. Remember from way back in the day, we called these Spanish forts presidios. So they set up these forts up close to the mission, and the mission was able to provide enough food for not only themselves, but also that of the forts, the presidios. Now, what these missionaries are hoping to accomplish, obviously, is to convert the Native Americans to Christianity. So these settlements go on to become big California cities later on. San Diego. I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but they grow and expand. And you remember, if you think way back, we've talked about the missions. That's kind of the church where the missionaries are. You have the presidios. That's the forts. And then the towns that grew up around them is called pueblos. All right? So they come. They're hoping to spread Christianity to the natives. Okay, so before the Spanish arrived, there had been many Native Americans. They live in kind of small groups. They're scattered around California. So when the Spanish arrived, they're not able to put up a lot of resistance, and the Spanish are able to conquer them pretty quickly. Most of these Native Americans are then, kind of forced towards the missions. They live at the mission. They work at the mission. They raise crops at the mission. They herd cattle. They do all the stuff. Now, I do believe that the missionaries there are very serious about converting them to the Catholic faith. However, it's not going to be an easy life. They're going to be worked very hard. Many of them are going to die from European diseases. So, it's going to be tough on them. But, once Mexico gains its independence from Spain, they look at California and go, it's not growing as rapidly as we like. It's not growing, we should have more people there. So who owns the land? Well, mostly it's the missions, the church. So Mexico takes a bunch of land away from the missions and from the missionaries and decides to give it to wealthy cattle ranchers. All right? These guys set up these huge cattle ranches. Whoops, I got to get my pen up here. Huge cattle ranches. All right? And who's going to work the land? Well, it's going to be those natives that had lived on the mission. Okay? They're going to be Mexicans and Indian cowhands. They are called vaqueros. Okay? And they do most of the work. They're the kind of the forerunners of what you think of as the Hollywood cowboy. they're roping and branding cattle. They're herding them up. So it's really not these American cowboys who are the first ones. It's going to be Mexicans and Indian cowhands, the vaquero, who really kind of sets the stage for for that Hollywood type cowboy that we all think of. Okay, so in the early 1840s, let's jump ahead a little bit. There's only 700 Americans who live in California. 700, that's it. But now more Americans are beginning to hear about this wonderful land, great opportunity for raising cattle and growing crops, and many more Americans are coming to California. So what does the U.S. do? They say they offer to buy California from Mexico. Hey, we're going to buy it from you. What do you think, Mexico? And Mexico has the audacity to say, no, thank you. We rather like the land. We want to keep it, which upsets many Americans. Many Americans think, hey, man, we want it. We've offered to buy it from them, and they're not selling it to us. And that upsets us. Because many Americans believe that America had the right and duty to spread their culture across the continent, all the way from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. Americans believe that their form of government, their systems of law, is the best in the world, and that they believe that they needed to spread this idea of democracy and republicanism from sea to shining sea. So again, Americans actually believe it's their right and also their responsibility or duty to do this. This is called manifest destiny. There you go again. Manifest destiny. Okay? They believe the expansion would open new opportunities for the U.S. to expand its economy. They're also eager to gain the ports of San Diego and San Francisco. And they use this idea to kind of justify some kind of dirty deeds. They use this to justify taking land by any means necessary. If Mexico won't sell us this land, then maybe we need to think about taking this land. All right? So that's a little bit of a scary thought. Even though, Mexico's, they're an independent country. They're a republic. Americans believe that our system is still the best, and we should take this land if they won't sell it to us. Okay, so this idea of manifest destiny is going to be a huge discussion, a huge issue during the campaign of 1844, the presidential campaign of 1844. So the Whigs, you got to love them, they put up, you know them, you love them, you can't live without them, Henry Clay. Henry Clay is once again going to run for president. Remember, he ran for president in 1824, he ran for president in 1832, now he's back again to run for president in 1844. Now, his opponent, and by the way, Henry Clay is, as you might well imagine, is extremely well known. He's a guy that has done a lot for our country. He's always been the kind of guy who, is looking for compromise, all right? His opponent, the Democrat, his name is James K. Polk. James K. Polk loves the idea of manifest destiny. He wants to annex Texas, all right? He also wants to get California and even Oregon. Now, if you remember, Oregon has been jointly shared by England, or the British, and the United States. Now, most people living in Oregon are American. And James K. Polk says, we want that land solely for the United States. He also knows that if he annexes Texas, he risks a war with Mexico. If you remember back in the last lecture, we talked about even though Santa Anna has been defeated and has signed an agreement, giving Texas, to the Texans, the government back in Mexico City had not recognized that treaty. It said it was, signed under duress. So if James K. Polk annexes Texas, we're probably going to go to war with Mexico. And he risks a war with Great Britain if he decides to try to take that. All right? So his campaign motto in the election of 1844 is a campaign slogan that says 5440 or fight. 5440 or fight. Okay? 5440 is the latitude. In other words, he wants to take the American border north all the way up to 5440. That's way up into Canada. All right? If he doesn't get it, what does he say? He's going to fight. 5440 or fight. Well, guess what? Election day comes, and these people are like, we love this idea of manifest destiny. Henry Clay, no. For the third time, Henry Clay is defeated, and they vote for James K. Polk. And that's where I'm going to leave you today. And let's see what the election of James K. Polk is going to do, for this land that we've just talked about, New Mexico, also Texas and Oregon. All right. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave you. Next time we come back, we're going to find out what happens under James K. Polk. Are we going to go to war with Mexico? Are we going to go to war with Great Britain? Are we going to get Texas, California, Oregon, all that land? Wait till next time. We'll see what happens.